I admitted to myself this actually quite recently, that in the beginning, I was like, okay, if I call myself an artist, people will leave me alone. Because artists are allowed to be weird, be unconventional, be self-destructive. It's carte blanche. If I say I'm an artist, they'll leave me alone. That was only partially true because people started to ask me, well, what do you make? And I didn't feel like my work was ever good enough. One of my biggest downfalls or struggles has been with perfectionism, which is a lot of artists struggle with that. And it's a real thing. It's very interesting because people will tell you, oh, just let yourself be, just forgive yourself, just accept yourself. Words are words. Have nothing to do with the internal struggle, the spiritual evolution that's required to begin to really embrace yourself and allow yourself to make things that you think are ugly and not judge it. I took a fine art class, one of the first classes I took in college, and I think I walked out the same day because the teacher started talking about the color wheel, and I had been introduced in high school to charcoal drawings of probably a metal chair is what I remember, charcoal line drawings of a metal chair. And I was so uninspired by that. I was like, this is so boring and I have no interest in this. So then I went down to New Orleans and I was exposed to Jan Saudek, who is this Czech photographer. I think he's still alive. And that's what I remember, my first really vivid, oh my God, that's cool art. He represented the female body in ways that I was like, right on. That's beautiful. Also the male body. And so that really struck me along with the music. The next major thing that happened was I dropped out of school in New Orleans. I just got very, very disheartened by classes that I couldn't relate to, the grading system. I hit a wall where I was like, I just don't care. I don't care about if you give me an A, B, or C in this subject. I traveled a bit. That was when I encountered the beat poets. I love words, I love language, and I love the whole ideology of that movement. Kind of like fuck mainstream society because it's so materialistic. And let's play with language and experiment with what language can do, and poetics and spontaneity, improvisation was a big part of that movement. And also do it yourself was a big part of that movement. You don't have to go through institutions and study in this rote way. You can take from your life, learn from the people around you, and try and experiment until you carve out your own style. Not having any structure in my life started to wear on me after I dropped out of school. I had a job, but I really wanted to learn. I like intellectual rigor. I like being with people in a learning environment. I had enrolled as a part-time night student at a big university in Colorado, and was taking night classes and working. And I had a conversation with somebody at a coffee shop, and they said they went to the Jack Kerouac School for Disembodied Poetics. I was like, that sounds really good. What is that? I found out about the school. It very much attracted me on many different levels. The fact that there was spiritual discipline at the front of it, and by spiritual discipline meaning that you pay attention to your mind. You pay attention to your mind, which is everything. You pay attention to how things come in, how you react. And that is the place where you begin learning to interact with the world. And that made a lot of sense to me. And then the second thing being, okay, this Tibetan man founded this school based on these teachings. He recruited artists from all different disciplines because when he came to the US from Tibet, from Britain actually, but he was Tibetan, he escaped from Tibet. He saw that the artists were people, writers, musicians, visual artists, dancers, were the people that were most interested in exploring their world, like the actual world that they encountered. So he recruited all these artists to come and teach at this school. I fell into the performative arts, actually. I didn't actually even know what I was doing. I signed up for a class called improvisation, and it turned out to be spontaneous improvisation using the body and the voice. And that scared the shit out of me. That was when I also encountered Basquiat. That was actually also a breakthrough, because our teacher in that night class gave us an assignment, and she said, pick an artist and imitate their work. And she gave us a bunch of different books to kind of look through. A lot of them were the old masters. And I saw Basquiat's work and I was like, what the hell is this? It attracted me. What does this person have the right to do, this kind of scribbly, childlike looking? I could do that. This is the artist I'm gonna try to copy. So that assignment, I tried to copy his work. Oh, it totally breaks my heart open, because I came to understand in that moment that he had a rhythm and a use of language. He's a graffiti artist. He was a graffiti artist initially. He was also a musician. And I in trying to copy his work and seeing my results, I could see what my work didn't have that his work had. And that allowed me to understand what he was doing on a certain level, that he was speaking, and he was speaking from a culture I didn't understand, urban, Black, and really critiquing the American culture, especially the art world and the political world, in a way that was so much more powerful to me than some of the activists that I saw that were just kind of criticizing and arguing and putting down the system. He kind of, instead of putting it down, he kind of just pointed to it and contrasted it with something else. So that happened. And then I came to Naropa and was thrown into this environment where it was all about improvisation. In the moment, what's going to come out of you? I started to get curious about why I had so much internal conflict about being seen, and about thinking, oh, this is the right way to do things. This is the way that looks right. And then I'm over here. And having this big pendulum back and forth. And the practice of these improvisational works that I ended up gleaning over years was, there is a meeting of form, the practice and articulation, the refinement of a form, whether it's of a written language or visual or a mix of things or physical, and your own spirit and soul, the authenticity. And becoming an artist is about finding where those two things meet. It's improvisation, yes, but also you have to learn the vocabulary of a form. And you can learn that in different ways. You can learn it by experimenting over and over and over again, but it does help to tap into a tradition, whatever that tradition is, on some level, because you can then stand on other people's shoulders and start to learn what communicates, what good form is, what you like and what you don't like. The idea that you take responsibility for the choices you make. So notice the choices you make, and notice what you like, and validate that. By noticing what you like, what you're drawn to, you start to develop your own voice of expression, instead of looking at what other people say is good or bad in a judgmental way. When I got to Naropa, what I noticed and what I was drawn to about all these different artists who were professors there, writers, musicians, poets, there's something about poetics that I think talks about the essence of all the other art forms, but all the forms of art. But these people were interested in their world. They were interested in the world they saw, and they were interested in communication, and they were interesting people. They knew how to speak, they knew how to be curious, and they were easy to interact with. They didn't look down on me or other students. I started to meet people where I was like, oh, it's not like the world of adults is just this horrible gray corporate thing that I don't want to be a part of. There's this other way to be. And so I basically decided during that time that whatever artist meant, that's what I wanted to pursue in my life. Wanting to tap into that authenticity and that beauty and the meaning of what it meant to be human. And that was married with the spiritual path. Those two things were not separate. I was really interested in getting to the essential, and I kind of took it maybe too intellectually far in terms of I was looking for an ideal. what is the best art form? What is the most raw art form? I was very dissociated from my body. I was eating disordered. I was abusing alcohol and various other substances. It was like two streams mixed, because I was also learning at that time how to feel my own body, because I was at this school that's very rooted in humanity and learning to feel your humanity. So I was doing these self-destructive behaviors, but then at the same time I was getting this information: feel your body. How do you feel your body? And the artists that I was emulating, just by the way, a lot of them were very healthy. They had found a way to connect with their mind and to work with their mind in Buddhism specifically, and to express in that healthy way. So I did emulate artists like Basquiat, who self-destructed, but I also had these living artists that were showing me what it meant to be a healthy human being. Naropa is a very process-based school, and it was funny because I would compare it to the big university on the hill. There was some cross-pollination between the universities, and it was again like yin and yang. The big university on the hill, especially in terms of the dance and performance I was involved in at the time, was very form-based. All the dancers were like, we have the technique, we came from a ballet background from when we were 2 years old. And Naropa, you would get people that were just doing their process on stage. Over and over. And that's like reading me your journal. If I'm your therapist, maybe that's valuable, but you need to take what's in your journal and refine it.
Yeah.
So I was searching through forms like Butoh, searching through the written word. The art form that I really chose, which was poetics, to me it was not confined by words, and to me I wanted the words to come out of my being and out of my body and my heart. So I found out things like, music taps me into myself. I think it taps me into the feeling of myself. So I found that working with words in accompaniment with music really helped the words to be authentic. So that led me into making what I call voicings. They're basically songs, I guess, but without the format of traditional songs. I tried to bring the authenticity of improvisation into photography. So I tried to direct people without directing them. I tried to provide improvisational structures, because within the realm of improvisation, non-performative improvisation, these magic moments would occur. When there's just enough structure, there would be these poignant moments of without the mask, where it was so real. It was so real, but it was protected because you were in this form. A couple of the teachers I worked with were extremely skillful at holding a container. So you were within a form. So it wasn't just you're meeting somebody on the street and you have no persona to protect you. It was within the form of these are the rules. So there was some rules. But the naked meeting places were so raw and so real. And I wanted that in my work, but it was so elusive, because no matter what form I tried, it seemed contrived. And that's still my question up to the present. Where's the marriage of the preconceived / the form and the spontaneous or the improvised? Where do those things meet? And how do you contain something? How do you frame something enough so that you can be liberated from your self-consciousness and yet be able to articulate through the language of whatever form you're choosing, and or refine it afterwards such that it can actually communicate to another human being. I'll stop there.